Hello everybody, Tanner here, and I just want to talk about my first 2 full weeks at UCR. This is the weekend after my second full week, so I'm just recording this to kind of talk about it and share my experiences so far. And I'm only going to talk a little bit about week 0, which for me was just one day, so that's obviously not a big deal to me because in fall quarters, week 0 always starts on a Thursday. And with how my schedule was set up and with no discussions on Friday, I only had to stick around on Thursday for my first class and my third class. So because of that, it was honestly kind of a waste of time and I didn't get a whole bunch of information. However, I did have a really big gap in between my first class and what will then become my third class. And because of that, I was able to explore, walk around, see the campus, and through that, I was able to actually help some people finding their classes. For me, that was really interesting because I had been on campus previously a handful of times, and I was able to explore just a little bit. And one of the times I was on campus, all I did was actually get to my classes. I just walked to my classes and where my discussions would be, and that was it. But I never actually explored anything. I never went to the library or went inside these buildings that I don't need to be in, you know? I was able to fully explore the campus, and I explored about half of it on that first week 0 day. The weekend went by. I didn't have to go on Friday because I didn't have any discussions, and that's when all my discussions are. So that following Tuesday is when I officially started my first full week at UCR. And my first class, the professor's really cool. I just don't enjoy how he makes discussions and lectures mandatory. I find that classes that are mandatory are kind of counterproductive, counterintuitive. We're in college, right? Like, if I don't go to a lecture or I don't go to a discussion, that's my own fault. There shouldn't be a grade tied to that lecture or discussion. I find that to be the professors kind of treating us like we're children, we're immature, and we don't know how to handle responsibility. Personally, I would go to all my discussions and lectures regardless if they were graded or mandatory or whatever, because that's just how it is for me, right? Like, I want to go to these things in order to maximize my chances of doing good in the class. I don't need to have a grade behind it in order to go, you know? I don't enjoy that very much, and I really don't think it's necessary, to be honest. The actual class is fine, and the professor himself is really cool. He shares a lot of cool stories in class, and the way he teaches is nice. You know, I don't have a problem with him. So I have about an hour gap before I go to my next class, and that class is very interesting. I don't think I'll enjoy it, but again, the professor's cool. And I keep using a lot of the same words, so I apologize about that. But that professor is really cool. The class subject in of itself is interesting. Again, I just don't know if I'm going to enjoy it very much. And after that first class, I have about a 3-hour gap because I kind of like to get to my classes a little early, but not too early, of course. But I have about a 3-hour gap. Let me kind of also backtrack. Over that weekend, I had actually been part of a Discord group, and during that gap on Tuesday, me and the creator of that group actually met up. We were the first 2 people to meet up in this Discord group, and it was really interesting. It was really cool. And we were sitting for about an hour, and then someone else came and met us. She had class, so she left and went to class, and another person met up, and us 3 kind of went exploring. We found some buildings that they needed to see, and then the person that met up with us had a class. So we found somewhere quiet enough to where she could attend the class, and then I ended up going to my class. So that took up my whole break, you know, that took up my whole gap, which was obviously cool because when you're hanging out with people, time goes by a lot faster. And of course, meeting new people and hanging out with them is always nice regardless. So that was pretty cool. So Wednesday, I don't go to campus, so that was kind of a free day for me because at this point, I don't have really anything assigned or anything I absolutely need to do for school. Thursday rolls around, and it's the same thing. During my first lecture, that goes by fine. I spend almost an hour in the library with a friend of mine, and we go on to the second class we have. because we have the first two classes together. So we move on to the second class, we do that, and then there's a gap. My friend leaves, and so I go to hang out with that group that I met from Discord, that friend group, and I just hung out with that friend group. Shout out to you guys, you know who you are. But again, that made the time go by much faster. It was during my 3-hour gap, so anytime I get to spend time with people and socialize and not have to worry about school, I'm totally okay with that, right? Because when we're going to school and stuff, we don't look back on the schoolwork, right? We don't look back on the educational part. We always look back on the social parts, the parts that we had fun, the parts that we made memories, right? We don't look back at, oh, wow, I'm so happy I did this test today, and oh, that project sure was fun. I'm going to remember that forever. No, we don't remember that, right? We remember the fun parts, the parts with the people that we care about. So meeting these people and hanging out with them and, becoming friends with them and getting to know them and learning about them, those are the parts of school that I find to be the best. And even going it way, way back in high school, my fondest memories of high school are hanging out with people and making memories with them, not school, if that makes sense. It's only because of school that I have the opportunity to do this kind of stuff. And So I go to my third class, and that's it. At this point, I have like one reading assignment to do, and that's it. So the weekend goes by, I just do normal weekend stuff, and like I previously mentioned, my weeks at UCR starts on Tuesday. So the next Tuesday rolls around, and it's basically a deja vu. First two classes done in a gap, hang out with those people, and I meet a few new people, which was also awesome. And that was that. That day ends. Wednesday comes and goes, and we're back to Thursday. Now this Thursday is a little bit different because there is an event that I was going to that I was really excited for. But before I talk about that, I'll say this. Thursday went by normally, and I'm at my last class. And when my class ends, I go to this event. Before I talk about the actual event, though, I want to say, the first week, there was a soccer game and a volleyball game that I wanted to go to. However, I found it very hard to justify going to these because I'm a commuter. So I have to drive to and from campus, either from or to my house, right? And I find it very hard to justify spending any extra time on campus when I don't have to be there. And because of that, I did not go to the soccer game. I did not go to the volleyball game, which was kind of a bummer because I really did want to. I really did want to experience my first sporting event at UCR, but I just didn't. I found it really hard to say to myself, I'll be here for an extra, 3 hours. Instead of leaving around 5, I'll be leaving around 8 or 9. And I just couldn't mentally get over that when I could go home, do what I needed to get done, and spend the rest of the time doing whatever I wanted instead of driving. That's how I looked at it. So before this event, I was very cautious at staying any extra long than I needed to. However, this event, the main event, was a Johnny Cash tribute band. And Johnny Cash has been my absolute favorite artist, musician for years and years and years, and I could not miss this. Since Johnny Cash is dead, unfortunately, this was the next best chance I could get at seeing live Johnny Cash music. I had to go. The event officially started at 5. My previous class ended at 4:50, so I rushed over to the barn at UCR, and I had one of the friend people from the friend group meet me there, and she got us wonderful seats. Once again, shout out, you know who you are. And the whole night was awesome. I did, however, get home at about 9:40, and it was so worth it, though. Cashed Out is the name of the band, and they were so freaking awesome. The opener was named Paul Olives, and he was fantastic too. His music was really, really good, and I just really enjoyed the night. I met a few people, and they were awesome, and it was just a really, really good night, and it totally made it worth it. However, I previously mentioned that I would go to all my discussions and lectures regardless. However, I had to make an exception on this next day, which would be Friday. And I have a 7 a.m. discussion on Fridays. The previous Friday made me confused in that class even worse than I already was. And because I was home so late, I said to myself that I would not be going to my 7 a.m. discussion. And at that moment, I had known that it was going to be official, that I would officially skip my first discussion or lecture at university. And I don't think I'll ever make a habit of it. Of course, I say this now, but I did kind of feel bad. But looking back, I got to experience a really cool event. I got to meet really cool people. And if I have to give up a 50-minute discussion in order to do that, in which the discussion didn't really help me out with the class to begin with, I'm okay with that. I'm totally okay with that. Making me have a 7 a.m. was a silly mistake on my behalf anyway, especially on a Friday of all days. It was just kind of silly, whatever. I got to deal with that for a whole quarter now. It's not a big deal. But the event was awesome. Cashed Out was awesome. Paul Olives was really cool. And I'm happy I went. The people I met were awesome as well. So it's now the weekend after my second full week at UCR. And I just wanted to talk about it a little bit. Week 0 was kind of unnecessary. It was kind of a waste of time. And knowing what I know now, I would have only gone to that first class, and I only would have done it because it was mandatory for a grade, which again I think is utterly ridiculous, but I'm not going to get into it again. And yeah, that pretty much wraps it up though. I'm with this friend group, and we've been hanging out and talking and chatting, and getting to know them has been really good and really fun, and that's the best part of my UCR experience so far, to be honest. The event, the Cashed Out event, was amazing. I'm very happy I did that. And if you're a commuter like me, and you're questioning whether you should do events or stay at the campus longer, here's what I'll say. If you need to get something done, if you have a deadline, obviously take care of your responsibilities and your major priorities first. That's important. Take care of the important stuff. But if you don't really have anything to do, you're only going to leave so you can get home a little bit sooner, I would 110% say to stay for events that you want to do. Don't try to mentally negotiate with yourself and say, well, if I do this, then I'm going to do that. And if this happens, then this will happen. No. If you want to do an event, just do it. Just go to these things. We're only supposed to be in college once, right? Make the most of it. Go out, meet these people, and do what you want to do. We can't be bogged down by homework and assignments and quizzes and midterms all of the time, right? So that's what I'll say to that. Overall, I was not too busy and haven't been too busy these first 2 weeks. The first week, like I said, I had like 2 reading assignments in total. And then my second week, I had 1 quiz, a couple of assignments overall. But then next week, I'm going to be really busy. Week 3 is going to be my busiest week. And after that, I don't know. Obviously, we'll see. But I actually have 2 midterms on the same day next week, and a project due on the next day, which would be Friday. So that's a lot in just 2 days. And I'm hoping to make the best of it. Obviously, I want to get the best grades humanly possible for myself. And I'm just looking forward to the overall experience at UCR, getting to meet these new people and becoming friends with them. And I'm just looking forward to the social aspect of it. School, education, assignments, homework, quizzes, obviously not so much. Nobody likes those things, but the actual social interaction, meeting people, being actually on campus, I find that stuff to be really intriguing and awesome, and I'm looking forward to it. So that pretty much wraps up my first full 2 weeks at UCR, and I hope you enjoyed this video. Thanks for listening to me talk for however long this video will be. See ya.